Hi, in this technical difficulties we're looking at the Mozambique A rhythm and some phrasing ideas that lie within the bell pattern of that rhythm. So let's kick things off with that bell pattern itself. So this is example 1. Before we take a look at a couple of traditional patterns with that, the next thing we're going to do is fill in the spaces with the left hand as ghost notes on the snare. One popular way of playing the Mozambique A is with a pseudo half-time feel. We've got one backbeat in the bar, but instead of landing on the downbeat of the second bar, because we fill in this in cut time really, it's played on the last eighth note of the first bar, so it has this anticipated quality, which is something that is unique to the Mozambique A and gives it its funky flavour anyway. So we put a snare drum on the last eighth note of the first bar, and we're going to put a bass drum on the first, and I'll step the hi-hat on 1 and 3. Another popular sound with this pattern is in the second bar, the two notes that we're ghosting on the snare, we move those to the toms. These fall in between the cowbell notes. And another popular version of the Mozambique A is the version you may have heard Steve Gadd playing. So we're moving the snare drum a little earlier in the first bar, so to the and of beat 2. And now the bass drum is played on the last eighth note of the first bar. So there's a slightly different syncopation to it. We've still got that tom movement in the second half. I'll start with the bell pattern and then introduce the other elements. So now we'll take a look at this idea of phrasing with that bell pattern. So the first thing that we'll do, it's not actually shown in the magazine, but we almost played it earlier. This idea of playing the bell pattern. So example 1, fill in the ghost notes on the snare. And we can move that right hand part for you, the cowbell part, down the kit and play it as a fill. In order to move out of that, it's easier to replace the very last note, which you'd normally play on the cowbell, replace that with a bass drum. And just one other idea with that, because you're only playing single notes in your left hand, ghosting them on the snare drum, you can double those notes, and that's quite an effective sound. Which finally brings us to example 2, where we're going to take the accents from the bell pattern and we're going to play them within a 6-stroke roll, so an 8th note triplet feel. So your right hand accents will play on the low tom, left hand accents will get the high tom. We could think of the Mozambique A rhythm as being subdivided into 2 groups of 5 and 2 groups of 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. In example 3, we're going to play all the accents from that pattern on the floor tom in your right hand. The left hand is going to fill in the triplet, and a single note on the bass drum is going to bridge between each of those groupings, which is what allows it to stay in your right hand, which means you can then move that around the kit. I'll start on the floor tom though. Next, example 4 has a sort of swing flavour to it because we're playing our original bell pattern up on the ride cymbal, but with a swing feel. And to complete the example, we're going to underpin that with the bass drum under all the right hand notes on the cymbal, and the left hand is going to fill in all the missing 8th note triplet partials. I'll start with the ride and introduce the snare. Thinking of that as a stick-in also allows you to just move that around the kit as well. And also with that swing phrase on the ride cymbal, you could move your left hand between 2 different sounds, sort of to create a sort of Elvin Jones sound, which would be something like this. And finally, we reach example 5, which is similar to the 6-stroke roll idea we had in example 2, only now instead of the 6-stroke roll holding things together, we're using an inverted double stroke. So instead of playing the double stroke right, right, left, left, we're playing it right, left, left, right. And so once again, right hand accents we'll put on the low tom, left hand accents on the high tom.